Hey, Fed Heads! Welcome to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is Sharing Our Pairings, episode 42, Pumpkin Pairing 2.0. If you remember last year, we did a fall pairing. Really, it was just pumpkin pairing. So we're going to call this Pumpkin Pairing 2.0. Thanks very much for all of our world listeners. We know you're listening in the Armed Forces Radio Network. Thanks very much wherever you are in the world. Hope you're staying safe. Thanks very much for our podcast listeners, whether you're listening on iTunes or something else. And thanks very much for all of our live listeners. Can't forget about you guys. Appreciate you checking in, watching live, and all of your questions. I am your host, Cigar Surgeon, on this frosty fall day. I'm joined by my co-host, my regular co-host, my normal, everyday, regular co-host, Robbie Rass. Rob, what's going on, brother?
We need to figure out a title for that. I mean, is it just, can I just be co-host?
That probably just makes sense. I should probably call you co-host.
I'm just a co-host, man.
It's been like a year and a bit.
Yeah, right? No, things are good, man. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was posting the stuff up for the show, and you know, it's Pumpkin Ales 2.0 or whatever. And I remember the last show that we did. I'm getting weird stuff in my camera here. I apologize for that. It's the sun's jacking with me. But yeah, I didn't really care for Pumpkin Ale leading into last year's show, and that's changed a bit for me. I'm not a huge fan. I've been drinking a lot of it lately, doing a lot of reviews for my other site, but I'm finding some good ones. I'm finding some that I don't like all that much. Two of the beers that I'm drinking tonight I've actually already had and I've done reviews for, so I'm excited to get into those again, and I've got a new one as well.
Spoilers!
Yeah. And the cigar that I'm smoking is new to me as well, smoking the Firethorn from Southern Draw Cigars, a relatively new company. They've been around for a little while. Veteran-owned company, veteran-owned and operated, so that's cool as far as with the AFRN and that kind of thing. But we're going to have them on Cigar Chat in a couple weeks, I think, or maybe a month, somewhere down the line to talk about that. So, but anyway, yeah, no, these cigars, they actually put little pairings on their website. Different beers and things that you compare these cigars with. So
I always appreciate when companies do that. You know, I mean, it's not just about making our lives easier, but educating the consumer. And I really appreciate when brewers or tobacco companies kind of go the extra mile and put some, you know, additional info on there. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, more ways to enjoy your product. I mean, if you know of a way to enjoy the product that isn't just your average standard way, then, like, for example, I've actually got one recipe that I'll talk about when we get to this particular brewer. And I'm actually going to try to make it. I've never done any baking in my life. I've never baked, but I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see what happens.
As long as you can follow instructions, baking's really not that hard.
You know, cooking is one thing. Baking is another, man. Baking is pretty exact, depending on what you're making. I kind of guesstimate, even though I hate that word. I'll eyeball things. You know, a tablespoon, that looks about right. But with baking, like, you have to be right.
Yeah, guesstimating works great for cooking. That's how you make really interesting cooking things. Yeah. Guesstimating does not work well for baking at all.
That's what I'm saying. So it's going to be interesting. So that'll be we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll take some video and share it with you guys how much I screw that up. But anyway, no, I'm excited, man. We've got some good beers here.
And we've got some decent cigars too. I am smoking, and I might get booed for this, but you know, this is like one of my go-to smokes, the Rocky Patel 1992 vintage. And you know, I know a lot of people like to poo-poo on Rocky because Rocky does have a lot of cigars out there, but Rocky does make good cigars. Like, he's got some good cigars, and this happens to be one of them. And I noticed what's interesting about this to me is that people tend to be a little split when it comes to the vintage. Usually you get, at least in my experience, you've got the vintage 1990 crowd and you've got the vintage 1992 crowd. And generally I don't find someone likes both. I typically find that they either like the 92 and don't really like the 90, or vice versa. For me, I like the 92, not so much the 1990.
I haven't smoked one of those cigars in a long time. There's a 99 too, right? It's got the blue band.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Look at you with the deep tobacco knowledge.
Yeah,
call you tobacco Jesus tonight.
Yeah, I went deep on that one. So yeah, like I mentioned, I'm smoking the Firethorn from Southern Draw. They're out of Texas, right near Logan, actually. I think they're just outside of Austin. Got some specs on the cigar here, but I've got a few different windows open, so bear with me. Let's see. We've got Nicaraguan. It's got a Ecuadorian Habano Rosado wrapper, San Andreas binder, and Nicaraguan fillers. It's a 6x52. That's what I'm smoking. They give you some breakdown of it here. I'm just going to read straight from the website. Let's see. From the first draw, the sweet natural aromas will tantalize the palate. Hello. After the first third, the cigar, there's some spice. I'm definitely getting that spice note. There's some spice up front for me, right on the tongue. Blends gently, trails off, so I'm looking forward to the spice kind of trailing off. I usually expect that when you get that big pepper bomb right at the beginning.
Yeah.
We got some cinnamon, cocoa, and caramel, and fading to a subtle pecan-like finish. I'm intrigued by that. And they also give a bunch of different things, spirits that you can pair with wines, craft beers. The craft beers that they suggest you pair with: a cream ale, lager, a pale ale, Belgian wheat, Pilsner, and an Irish red ale. So I figured, based on that, pumpkin ale kind of fits right into that realm. It's not a perfect fit, but it's close enough. But so far, so good. Good construction, but a nice little spice up front.
The Rocky Patel 1992 vintage, I'm smoking the Robusto, which is a 5.5 by 50. Not sure how that should be like a Robusto extra. It's got an Ecuadorian wrapper, it's got Nicaraguan binder, and it's got Dominican and Nicaraguan filler. It's made in Honduras, but really nothing about the cigar is Honduras. I tend to be a little poo-poo on the Honduras cigars, so the fact that this is really Nicaraguan and Dominican is probably why I like it so much, because, love them Nicaraguan cigars, son.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I do like a Habano Rosado wrapper. A lot of good wrappers coming out of Ecuador.
Absolutely.
Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've noticed. I mean, they've been around for a while, obviously. But the last few years, it seems to be everything from a Connecticut shade to Habano Rosado, things like that. So it's a lot of good stuff coming out of Ecuador as far as wrappers are concerned. But let's dive in here, man. I'm excited. I've got all these beers. I'm starting to smell them. I haven't tasted them yet, but they smell good. So let's get started.
I've been drinking for 20 minutes. I'm a cheater. Pumpkin drinker. Yes.
I had to, while you were drinking, I was cleaning out my beer fridge because my power went out last night and sort of defrosted the freezer portion of my beer fridge for me, which was nice.
As long as the beers are okay and the carpet's okay, that's really all that matters.
Oh no, it's all good. It's a minimal amount of water that was there, and it's fine. The temperature was right when I opened it up, and the power was out for, I don't know, a couple hours. Not enough to cause any damage, and I'm not really cellaring anything anyway. So,
and folks, that's why you got to salt your meat right there, because power outages. That's my segue. So my first beer up. My first beer up today. I've gone all Canadian. I sent Robbie a picture before the show of all these delicious pumpkin beers. I kind of wish I had poured the Rogue because it's got this really awesome bright orange packaging. Like, I'm just a sucker for the packaging, but I'm going all Canadian. My flag, if it would stay up in the weather, I'd have the flag behind me, but it keeps falling down because it's too cold to stick anymore. At any rate, first up, Yukon Brewing, the Angry Hessian. It's kind of got that, super cool pumpkin, the Ichabod Crane, the Headless Horseman vibe going. A little bit about Yukon Brewing. Opened in 1997 under the Chikut Brewing Company. That's a Yukonian thing. But they had trademark issues, so they had to change their name to Chichaco Brewing. And then in 1992, went to the simpler Yukon Brewing Company. They're still under the original owners, Alan and Bob. So that's kind of cool after that much time. A little bit of history behind the Angry Hessian. The Hessian is the actual original story behind the Headless Horseman. It was a ghost of a Hessian trooper. His head had been shot off by cannon fire in the Revolutionary War. And then, of course, when Ichabod disappeared, there was a shattered pumpkin found near his abandoned hat. And what's interesting is this beer actually uses a pumpkin strain from that smashed pumpkin No, no, that it's a fable. No, there's no truth to that whatsoever. What is true about this is it's 5% ABV. In it, they've got molasses, demerara sugar, crushed cinnamon sticks, pureed ginger, crushed whole cloves, whole nutmeg, and some oats for body. And I'll hold it up. I mean, it's, kind of, as you can see, I've been sipping a little bit. It's pretty much what you'd expect the color of a pumpkin ale. It's like got that pumpkin ale color to it. And I'm going to have a sippy sip of this and a smoky smoke of my cigar while you chat about what you got going on.
You have been drinking for a while, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
I was totally with you on the story. I'm like, wow, how did they find that? How'd they find that strain of pumpkin?
Totally made up. No, I didn't make up that story. That's from their website, and I thought it was a pretty hilarious story.
Well, I was only halfway paying attention, so there's that. I'm actually semi-prepared today for a first. So my first beer, it's the pumpkin, which it seems to be kind of a common thing. Harvest Pumpkin Ale and Pumpkin Ale seem to be like the most common names that I've come across. This actually has both. Has both names on the label. I didn't even realize that. It's from Uinta Brewing, and they are out of all places, Salt Lake City, Utah. This is their pumpkin. You can see it right there, and then right there it says Harvest Pumpkin Ale. And this is 5% ABV. Some background on Uinta. It's Uinta. It was founded by Will Hamill back in 1993 in Salt Lake City. Saw an interview with Will, and he said that he chose Salt Lake City simply for the recreation. He likes to be outside, and he wanted to, after work, go ski or do whatever, mountain bike or whatever it is that you do in Salt Lake City. I'm assuming skiing is big there. He's from Portland, Maine. Moved to Portland, Oregon. Learned about the manufacturing side of brewing, I guess, mass brewing, I guess you'd say. I don't know what the term is, but and from there he decided he was going to start his own business. Went to Salt Lake City. They were only on draft from '93 to '95. They had their three main beers. It was their Cutthroat Pale Ale, Golden Spike Hefeweizen, and King's Peak Porter, which they still make today. Those all hit bottles in 1996. Current brewmaster, and I don't know if he's been the brewmaster the whole time. I didn't go that far into their history. It's Kevin Eli. One thing that's interesting, though, is they run 100% on renewable energy from wind and solar. 100%.
That's kind of cool.
Wind and solar for everything they do. So from Uinta, they've got basically three lines of their beers. They've got the classic, the organic, and the crooked. This pumpkin comes from the organic line, and they don't give a whole lot of information about what they put into it. There's not much here on the bottle as far as what they put into it, as far as hops and things like that. I've got more information on the other beers. It's a 5% alcohol by volume. It's described as a sessionable pumpkin ale. It's pretty light, obviously, at 5%. 10 IBUs, so there's no bitterness in here at all. On the nose, for me, pumpkin spice, obviously. You get some anise coming off of that a little bit, and some nutmeg. So basically, you get the same stuff off of all of these. The flavor profile for me is significantly lighter than the other two beers that I'm drinking today, so I'm glad that I did things in the order that I did. I decided to just go by ABV today, and I think it's going to work out based on this one. But pretty good beer, and the brewery's pretty cool. They've got a lot of different things. They've got another pumpkin ale, actually, that's part of their Crooked line. It's Oaked Jack Imperial Pumpkin. It's aged in oak barrels, and it only comes in the gigantic 750 milliliter bottles, and I just didn't want to do that, so I decided to go with just the regular 12 ounce.
So what's interesting, I kind of did the same thing as you. I went by ABV because I wasn't sure what criteria to rank these, and I'm glad I did. The Yukon Angry Hessian is exactly what I would expect out of a pumpkin ale. So, I get some cloves and I get some spices. And it's balanced. You're not getting a punch in the face of spices. But, that being said, I kind of like being punched in the face with pumpkin spice. It's kind of why I enjoy pumpkin ales to begin with. It's pairing well. I chose the vintage 1992 because it's got a lot of chocolate notes in it. Really no spice to be found. It's got some toasted nuttiness, and they pair really well. I think the Yukon Brewing is something I'd enjoy more on its own. I don't think it's something that really I'd pair, because I think I'm looking for pairing. I'm looking for something with a little bit more character, and I think they're blending it just to be a good pumpkin ale.
So while you were talking, I ashed on my keyboard.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm holding Robert Holt. He's the owner of Southern Draw. I'm holding him completely responsible for that. Robert, this is all your fault, man. I'm kidding. It's totally my fault.
If the cigar was constructed better, the ash would have held longer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the issue. No, it was my fault. It was time to ash, and actually, you can see that burns pretty good. Anyway, my errors aside, the pumpkin ale, I did a little bit of research on it before the show, so I didn't really guess as far as which one I was going to have first. I knew I was going to have this one first based on what I had seen and read. And it's exactly what I anticipated from what I had read online. It's lighter. I saw one reference that it was like the Coors Light of pumpkin ales.
Ouch.
I think they mean that in the way that you could keep consuming it over and over and over again. And maybe the warmer it gets, maybe it's not so good. But, the flavor for me is fine. It's exactly what I would anticipate from a sessionable pumpkin ale. It's got those basic notes of pumpkin. There's a little bit of spice to it. There's almost a citrusy note that I think that the cigar is probably pulling out of there. Like I said, I haven't had this one on its own, but I imagine that's where that's coming from. But it's pleasant. I think it highlights the cigar more than anything. It's bringing out a little bit more spice and some of that sweetness, that cinnamon sweetness, cinnamon spice, cinnamon sweetness I was getting out of the cigar. It wasn't really getting before I started sipping on the beer. So I think it's highlighting the cigar a little bit more than the beer. But in this case, I wouldn't be that mad about it. We've said things like that before, where in this case, it's highlighting the cigar, and I'm okay with that because the beer is fine. It is what it is. It's not super expensive. I can pick it up at Safeway for $7 or $8 for a 6-pack or whatever it is. It's not a major investment. It's not a major time investment or anything like that. So this is the kind of thing where I'm having a cigar and I just feel like grabbing a beer, and I pair it with this, and it works out fine.
Just a reminder to our audience that you are listening to or watching Sharing Our Pairings, episode 42, Pumpkin Pairing 2.0, 'Tis the Season. Thanks very much for all of our listeners, all of the Armed Forces Radio Network listeners that are out there. I keep trying to tune into the Armed Forces Radio Network, and because apparently I can't tell time, I keep missing the broadcast by like an hour. But I've tuned in a couple times and checked it out. It's a pretty interesting broadcast. I'm ready to move on to my second beer. How are you feeling there, Captain Candair?
I don't even know what that is, but yeah, I'm ready to move on. I think I let some of the reviews that I read about this Winter pumpkin to skew my experience. I think I was expecting it to be a little flat, and I think I'm making it that way. I think it's probably a little bit better than I think it is, but I know that these other two beers are really good, so I'm ready to move on too.
All right, next up, I've got, again, another Canadian beer. This is one I've not had before. This is from Russell Brewing Company. I like on these glasses, there's no mistaking this is a pumpkin beer. I mean, they got a pumpkin theme. This one's got the scary jack-o'-lantern. It says Happy Jack. I don't know if he looks happy or homicidal. Regardless, a little bit about Russell Brewing Company, located in Strawberry Hill, Surrey, BC. They've been open since 1995. What's interesting to me is all of their beer is unpasteurized. Unpasteurized. It's kind of interesting. They use all Canadian two-roll barley malt as the base for all their beers, and they sometimes add specialty malts from Scotland. And then interesting nerd note for all those hoppy nerds out there, they use Willamette and Cascade aroma hops grown in the Yakima Valley in southern Washington for all of their hoppy needs. A little bit about the Happy Jack Pumpkin Ale. It's 5.5% ABV and 25 IBUs, so we're kind of going up the IBU scale. And what I know is this, and we'll get to the questions, but I think this is related to one of the audience questions. This is a pumpkin pie in a glass. And it's kind of where it's kind of my go-to. I think that's my happy place for, you know, if I'm going to pick up a pumpkin ale, I want pumpkin pie in a glass. And this is definitely, you can see, I mean, that's quite a bit darker than, quite a bit darker.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's good. No, it sounds interesting. I like that you're a little bit afraid of the artwork on the bottle. The fact that he could be happy or homicidal. That's a clown for me. That's why I'm afraid of clowns.
Nice.
I was going to go into a little
clown diatribe.
No, yeah, a little thing about clowns. It was from Modern Family, but I don't know if everybody watches that show, and I didn't want to go into it because anyway, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't have brought it up. So I'm going with the Pump Kick from New Belgium. You guys probably know New Belgium from the Fat Tire, which is insanely popular beer over the last, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years. Some notes on New Belgium. They've been around since 1991. So as far as craft beer goes, that's pretty old, right? I mean, most of these companies that we've talked about are all within the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. So to go back to 91, this one's definitely got some length to it. Founded in Fort Collins, Colorado. They are, as of this year, expanding to Asheville, North Carolina. They haven't opened that up yet, but they will be. Annual production is less than 6 million barrels, making them the fourth largest, though that's kind of weird to say less than and then largest. Mm-hmm. The fourth largest brewer of craft beer in the United States, the eighth largest brewery in the U.S. overall. To talk a little bit about the Pump Kick itself, this is an interesting beer. This is one of my favorites. These next two are each two of the favorite pumpkin ales that I've had this year. They use nugget hops. It's the only hop that they use. It's 6% alcohol by volume. I don't know what the IBUs are, but they're low. There's pale Munich and caramel malts, and they combine that with a bunch of different stuff to get this Pump Kick flavor. Pumpkin juice, so they borrowed from Harry Potter. Some cinnamon, some nutmeg, which you're going to find that in pretty much every single pumpkin ale that you have is going to have some cinnamon or nutmeg. You'll get some allspice in there too. But the difference here is they've got cranberries and lemongrass. Now, for the life of me, I couldn't really tell you what lemongrass tastes like. I have an idea that it's probably tastes like lettuce with a little bit of lemon on it. You don't eat a whole lot of Vietnamese food? Maybe. No, not really. Eat more Thai food than Vietnamese. I had Thai food last night, actually. A big fan of green curry. The place near me does a phenomenal green curry. We got these jumping shrimp or something like that, where they're these big prawns on a skewer, and they cook them with like ground chicken and all this stuff. So good. They were heavy, though. I mean, these were big freaking things. Like, I mean, 5, 6, 7 inches long for a prawn. That's huge. Yeah, they got to take them down with mechas. it was pretty serious, but they were good. Anyway, so they put some fruit notes in here that you're going to get. And for me, that's the difference. And like you were saying, there's a question here about the pumpkin pie type flavor. This one had much more of a pumpkin pie type note for me. It's almost saison-like on the nose, which when I first tried it, you're checking out the nose of the beer before you take a sip. I had low expectations. I thought, I'm not going to like this because I really don't like saisons. And because it's kind of got that citrusy note to it, and there's some funk there. I don't know what the correct term is for that. I just call it funk, and it's not a good thing for me. And so the nose on this, for me, is not very appealing. It's got that saison flavor or that smell in there, and a little bit of pumpkin spice, but not too much. But the finish on this has a ton. Like, it just tastes like pumpkin pie to me. You get that fruit up front, and it kind of mellows out to some cinnamon, and that finish is going to get you total sweet pumpkin pie, and it doesn't linger. Some of these pumpkin spice ales that I've had, they can linger, like the smashed pumpkin, which we did on the show last year. I posted a review of that today on my other site, and that was the main thing for me, is it coated my palate, and it just never went away. You can say the same thing about some cigars, but they just crush your palate. Yeah. And some of these can be like a lingering palate crusher, and this one, it lingers just enough. There's just enough sweetness there. It's really one of my favorites, but I'll stop talking so you can get into your point.
No, it's all good. I mean, before I wax poetic about my pairing, I'm gonna maybe ask Jared's question here. Jared wants to know, when you try a pumpkin beer, do you lean more towards the pumpkin spice regular ale with spices side, or the actual pumpkin ale tastes like pie side? And I kind of already answered that, but I'll wax poetic. If I'm going for a pumpkin ale, I want to taste pumpkin. Now, what's interesting, and I because I'm all about the research. I found in my research, going back, the first the modern pumpkin ale, came from Buffalo Bill's Brewery in 1985. And there was a guy named Bill Owens, Buffalo Bill Owens, and he was the one that started experimenting with pumpkin ale again. And it used to be a mainstay in the United States back in the 1700s. Is like that was, back when people were just farmers. They couldn't just malt barley. It wasn't a thing. Barley was for eating. Barley wasn't for brewing. And so they'd use pumpkin. But the issue you ran into is that, of course, in the fermentation process, is all of the sugars and flavors in that pumpkin are getting sort of stripped away and used up in the fermentation process. So you're actually losing all of that pumpkin flavor. So what he ended up doing is just taking a giant can of pumpkin spices and just hucking it into the brew, and brought back the flavors. And I think for me, I don't want to have overpowering, cloves and cinnamon, whatever, but I want to be able to taste pumpkin. Like, I want pumpkin pie in a glass. I don't want an ale that sort of tastes like someone waved the pumpkin over top of it. That's not my shtick.
Just to take it a little step further with Buffalo Bills, that's in Hayward, California, right down the street from me. And if memory serves, we did. I had Buffalo Bills on a show last year, and I was telling John when I was cleaning out my beer fridge, I found 2 of them from last year's show, and I should have cracked one open, and maybe I will before we're finished here because we're talking about it. But they also have this year, and I haven't seen it in the past. They have the Black Pumpkin, which is a pumpkin oatmeal stout, which I've been on the hunt to find. It's only available in 22-ounce bombers, but I haven't been able to find it.
That sounds fantastic.
Doesn't it sound great? And I might just take a ride down to Hayward. It's not that far. And the trick is you got to go at the right time, though, because if I'm driving towards San Francisco in the morning, I'm screwed. If I'm driving home from San Francisco in the afternoon, I'm screwed. So I got to leave the house at like 10 and head back around noon. And that's an interesting time to go buy beer on a Tuesday. But I might have to make that trip just to pick one of those up. To get back to the question at hand, do I prefer one or the other? I'm going to answer this without really answering it. It depends on the beer. If it's like, for example, for that oatmeal stout, I'm expecting that to be, like you said, pumpkin pie in a glass. I'm expecting it to be sweet. I'm expecting it to be a little bit heavier. With some of these that are just regular ales, pumpkin ales, I had one that it's actually a pale ale that they use pumpkin spices. Most of these are brown ales or amber ales, but this was a pale ale. And I expected it to be lighter, and I expected it to be a bit more astringent in the flavor quality. And it was. And so I went in with that expectation. I wasn't disappointed. And I found it enjoyable. So it kind of goes both ways. I guess it depends on what I want at the time and what I'm really expecting from the beer. And in a way, you could even say that about cigars. It's the same thing. Yeah. You can't say for every well, I guess you could. I mean, you're smoking in Connecticut, you have a certain expectation of what that's going to be. And if it throws a total curveball and it's this crazy spice bomb that you're just not expecting, then, it can throw a monkey wrench in your business pretty quick. But I don't know. For me, it really depends. I tend to lean more towards, like I'm the same with cigars, I tend to lean more towards a sweeter. If there's got some sweetness to it, then I'm really going to enjoy that. It's a long-winded answer. It just really depends on what the beer is, what my expectations are.
Sounds like a non-answer to me. So, talking about the pairing, this is kind of more what I was expecting in the pairing. This Russell Brewing Company, Happy Jack is exactly kind of what I wanted. It's got lots of pumpkin. It's got a lot of spice, but not overpowering the pumpkin, with a nice bit of cinnamon chaser. And that's kind of what I had in mind when I was thinking of this cigar and a pumpkin beer. I want a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of nuttiness, a little bit of cinnamon, move my hands up and down because I'm so excited. This is what I wanted. And so this is, to me, this is the pairing that it was delivered. And it's good. I think I would definitely revisit this beer again, but of course the downside for pumpkin beers is you've got a very limited time frame in order to do that. I was actually reading that some of these breweries have to start production in July. Demand is so high now for pumpkin beer that they have to start production in July in order to make delivery for late August, early October. Can you believe that?
Where do you even get pumpkins in July?
I mean, I don't know. What's interesting, and I didn't know this. Again, I think one of the interesting things, maybe for me, hopefully for our listeners, is that everyone talks about it's as American as pumpkin or
Apple pie.
Apple pie. What they should be saying is it's as American as pumpkin pie, because the truth of the matter is when the colonists came over to the United States, pumpkin is very prevalent, especially in the southern U.S. and eastern U.S. Apparently, pumpkins, and I didn't know this, but pumpkins just grow like a weed, like pumpkin is not something you have to grow. Pumpkin is something that grows everywhere. And this is why they're using pumpkin in everything. In fact, they were using pumpkin as a substitute for wheat in bread. They're using pumpkin to replace sugar in some of their baking. And of course, we've already talked about using pumpkin as a replacement for malted barley in beer because pumpkin was so prevalent. And I think maybe what happened is, as the Americans moved away from this agrarian society into urban living, they kind of abandoned that because it's maybe got this tie into being a farmer and being poor, and that's kind of had that connotation, that association for hundreds of years even. But you don't really think of pumpkins as being a big American thing, and it absolutely is.
We're all about the gourds, man.
Yeah,
I love a good gourd. I've developed quite a taste for butternut squash. That is quite tasty. Just dice it up and eat it.
Dice it up, put it in a pan, a little bit of butter.
Oh, I don't even cook it. Just eat it raw. It's good, man.
All right.
And I put it in juice in the morning for juicing in the morning. It's good for you. To get back to my pairing here, I'm very disappointed because I really do like this beer, but it does not pair well. I'm not getting pumpkin at all. I'm getting tart cranberry. And now I know what lemongrass tastes like because I can taste it now. It's the cigar. It's not impacting the flavor of the cigar. The cigar still tastes fine. The beer tastes bad. It's a shame because it's a really good beer. But I just think that fruit aspect of it is bad times as far as the pairing is concerned. I kind of feel like. I almost wanted to say this as a joke, as a pair with a Cameroon. But I think taking this with a sweeter, lighter Connecticut would be better. I don't know that the fruit might not overrun it as much and still get some of that pumpkin out of it. This pairing it's no good for me right now, which is unfortunate. But that's part of the show.
That is part of the show. We're taking the hit so our listeners don't have to. And thank you. You're welcome. And actually, what was interesting to me, because we didn't really talk about pricing. Of course, I complain bitterly every week about our beer pricing. What was curious to me is I went out. Oh,
no, keep going.
Oh, okay. I went out and I was looking at beer pricing, and normally up in Canada here, I will pay $8.50, maybe $9. If it's a Rogue or something special, I might pay $11 or $12 for these 650s. Which, that's a few bucks. And all of these Canadian beers were actually sub 650 for the 650 milliliter bottles. So, I'm paying, in some cases, I was paying $5.50, which is a great value, especially if the beer is good. So dropping $15 in a show is certainly much better than dropping $30 in a show or $35 or $40 in a show, especially if I can't taste anything at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's funny. Sorry, I pulled away because my second pairing was no good. So since you brought up Buffalo Bills, I'm going to crack one of these open. Now this is if you're up on your Buffalo Bill trivia. which I know you are. They have rebranded, so this is the old branding. This is last year's bottle. I'm curious how well these age. We're about to find out.
You guys want to pay attention to this because this is going to come in later for our big pumpkin giveaway where we mail you a pumpkin. No, we're not mailing you a pumpkin. Do you know how much that would cost?
Shipping would be a pain.
That's ridiculous.
No, that's bad times, man. No, when you were saying that about price, my wife just a couple days ago went to Cost Plus World Market. There's one right. That's actually I think they're based out of Oakland, which is right next to where my wife works. She works in Oakland, but they're right next door to each other. And she was looking for something, and she went in, and they have a beer section. And I always forget that they have beers there. And she called me up, and she said, "I know you're doing a pumpkin show. Do you need some beers?" I said, "Well, what do they have?" And she starts rattling off. They had like 10 different pumpkin ales. And the nice thing is, you get them regular 12-ounce bottle. Nice. I don't have to buy a 6-pack. I don't have to buy a bomber. I can just get the 12-ounce bottle and call it good. It made it a lot more affordable for me. I think they're either 99 cents or $1.99 or $1.50, depending on which beer it is for the 12-ounce bottle. Now, if you're buying a full 6-pack, obviously you're per unit.
Did you just say they're 99 cents a bottle?
Some of them were 99 cents, $1.50, and $1.99. I believe. I could be wrong.
Ridiculous. But, clearly I need to move to California and become an alcoholic.
Absolutely. No, that's bad. That's a bad idea.
I mean, no.
Drink to California, but actually don't.
Wow, that's a really good price.
And again, I may be wrong. I know that the New Belgians were $1.99 a piece.
Wow.
But if you think about it, I mean, if I go buy a 6-pack of these, it's not going to cost me $12.
But I mean, the nice thing about getting an individual 12-ounce, and I think more companies need to do this, is you can try the beer before you invest in a 6-pack or a 12-pack, and I prefer to do that. I mean, I don't want to go deep on your 6-pack and then find out it sucks and 5 of them sit at the back of the fridge for the next year and a half.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I agree with that. Finding a 12-ounce bottle, most bottle shops, I mean, everything is going to be in a bomber or something, or like the 1 pint, 9 fluid ounces, like you get the Pliny's, and those come in. Yeah. I don't know how many ounces that is, or Freedom gallons or whatever the hell. I don't know what that is, but they're bigger bottles, and it's it's an investment, but I don't know. I don't mind it, and it's funny. Like it ends up being, my wife is starting to sneak in some expensive bottles of wine because she says, "Well, this is less than what you're paying for that beer," and I'm like, "Well, maybe not." Anyway, so I'm going to jump into this. I'm throwing a curveball. I'm going to do my 4th pairing here with this Buffalo Bills, and we'll see what happens. It's real spicy in a good way, like sweet spice. A lot of cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, that type of stuff. Definitely smell the pumpkin. So I'm curious to see how this works out after a year of sitting in my fridge.
America's Original Pumpkin Ale. Just a reminder to our audience, you are listening or watching Sharing Our Pairings, episode 42, Pumpkin Pairing 2.0. Thanks again for our Armed Forces Radio Network listeners. Shout out to all the Canadian cigar enthusiasts. I know you guys are out there. You've been, I was going to say tweet, but you don't tweet on Facebook. They've been posting on Facebook. Appreciate you guys sending in your questions and watching our show. Thanks to all our podcast listeners. You're listening on iTunes. Check us a review. If you like the show, throw us a review. That's how we get high on it, because we want to be top rated on iTunes, and that's how we get top rated on iTunes. It's not going to happen. Anyways, I digress. How is the first pairing with the America's Original Pumpkin Ale? It's good, and this is along those pumpkin pie in a glass type situations. It's not super thick, 6% alcohol by volume. And I don't have any background information on it because I didn't even look it up, other than it's the America's Original. It says right there on the bottle. The flavor is really, really nice. It's warm. It's comforting, yeah? And it pairs really well with the cigar. It's bringing out the stuff that I was missing from the pump kick from New Belgium, which I would get that without pairing it with the cigar. So it's a nice pairing. I'm curious. I've got one more of these, and I want to do kind of a taste test of a new one and one that's a year old and see if there's any difference. But just after a few sips, it's really good. I was on mute there. Rookie mistake. I'm going to get into another audience question here before I get into my last pairing. Harley Holmes wants to know, since pumpkins are a fruit, indeed they are, what other types of fruit beers would you like to see produced? Also, what types of cigars do you think go best with pumpkin beers? I'll ask the last part of your question first because I feel like that's a shorter answer than the first part. When I'm looking to pair with pumpkin, I'm looking for something that's not very peppery, not very spicy, because I feel like those components are going to overrun pumpkin, which tends to be very subtle in the beer. And I'm looking for nuttiness. I'm looking for a little bit of sweetness. So, it's interesting because you kind of alluded to this earlier in the show about Cameroon.
Don't do it.
I feel like Cameroon would go really well with pumpkin. So, anything from Fuente, like a Hemingway signature, would go really well. The Rocky Patel Cameroon might actually be a good choice because, with the Cameroon, you get a lot more in the nuttiness. So that might be a good choice. I went with the Rocky Patel 92 because, again, it's got a lot of chocolatey notes in there, and it does have some nuttiness, but the chocolate is more pronounced. So for me, it gives me a little bit of rich sweetness to counteract the pumpkin spices, which, the spices tend to be more prevalent than the sweetness off the pumpkin. As far as the first part of that goes, I've kind of been digging, or at least was digging when the weather was nice, the Radlers grapefruit beer. I don't know if people out there really like grapefruit beer, but there's a lot of really good Radlers out there. And the nice thing is that a lot of the Radlers kind of hover around 3 to 4%. So you can have a Radler at lunch and not feel like, you're going to get gooned on a beer. Not that you would get gooned on a 5% beer, but, you drink a 3 or 4% Radler, it's refreshing. It doesn't feel like an alcoholic drink. It just feels like something that tastes good when the weather's warm. That's kind of where I gravitate towards. What about you, Rob?
It's funny because I said Cameroon just kind of as a joke, and it really, when you start to think about it and the flavor profile you get from a Cameroon wrapper, absolutely they would pair well. It's like you said, you get that nuttiness. There's that graham cracker kind of flavor that you get in there, and you start talking about apple pie with a graham cracker crust, forget about it. It's good, right? That to me, I'm thinking about it, and while you're talking, I'm trying to go back through my head, stuff that I've reviewed over the last few years, the Cameroon stuff, the Nirvana from Royal Golds that's was blended by Drew Estate, is a cigar that I think would make a really nice pairing here. And I almost feel like we should do Pumpkin Ale 3.0 now, maybe as we get closer to Thanksgiving, because they're still going to be around for the most part. Maybe we could
but Thanksgiving just passed, Rob. What do you?
Oh, that's right. Happy, and I did. I sent you a message. I said
you did. Thank you very much.
Did I even preface it by saying Happy Canadian Thanksgiving? I think I just said Happy Thanksgiving because
I think you were polite and you just said Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah.
All credit to my wife because she was the one who pointed it out. And it was on Sunday, even though I think the actual holiday was a Monday.
Correct.
But you guys celebrated on Sunday. So
we typically eat our turkey on the weekend because that's kind of when people get together is, Saturday, Sunday.
So how was it?
It was good, man. I mean, I appreciate that Thanksgiving for Canadians is in October. You get your turkey dinner. We're way off topic now, but whatever. The boss will be mad at with me. What? You get your turkey dinner. You get your turkey sandwich. Then you get your turkey soup. And you're sick of turkey. And you're like, I'm sick of turkey. Month and a half goes by. It's Christmas time. You don't want Christmas ham. You want turkey again. It's just the right amount of time to space out. And I think that's why so many people have Christmas ham is, they've just had turkey in November. They don't want turkey a month later. So for me, I love turkey. Turkey's kind of my thing. It's good. It's nice hanging out with family and, that's really what Thanksgiving is all about, is being thankful for what you have and hang out with family and appreciating your family.
Absolutely. Even since I was a kid, Thanksgiving's always been my favorite holiday. There's football on, you just kind of hang out and you just eat all day. And I don't know, maybe it makes me gluttonous. I don't know, but I've always enjoyed it. Always look forward to Thanksgiving. My wife, we host Thanksgiving, and actually last year I cooked the turkey because we deep fried it. Fantastic. Oh, we got this deep fryer thing, and it's not one of those little cylinders that's going to explode.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure that the turkey is completely dry. If there's any water on that thing, you're screwed. But anyway, we're getting so far off topic. I'm going to bring it back to the second half of Jared's question. Fruit beers, whatever. I mean, nowadays there's every kind of beer imaginable. I've had some fruit beers that I really enjoy. The best beer and I don't consider it a fruit beer because it's not, but the best beer that I've ever had that has any fruit in it is the Grapefruit Sculpin IPA from Ballast Point. If you haven't had that, drop what you're doing and go get one, because it's one of the best IPAs I've ever had. It's fantastic. John, I don't know if you've had that or not.
Interestingly enough, my local distributor / dealer,
Nice.
Kensington Wine Market, actually got in a ton of Ballast Point stuff. I didn't pick it up the last time I was there, but I'm going to pick up. I got my fancy dancy Japanese whiskey came in, the one I was talking about on our Japanese whiskey show. I just got a note that it came in, so I'm going to go pick that up and grab some of the different, I think Ballast Point, they've got 3 different Ballast Points there, the Sculpin and something else. So for sure, I'm going to pick it up because I don't know when, if stock's going to come back in, if they sell out. So,
well, there's 3 different Sculpins. There's the Sculpin IPA, which is very good. There's the Grapefruit Sculpin IPA, which is also very good. There's the Habanero Sculpin, which it's hot.
I don't think they have the Habanero IPA. I'm pretty sure they have the Ballast Point IPA and the Sculpin IPA, and then they have something else from Ballast Point.
If it's Victory at Sea, pick that up.
It might be.
Victory at Sea, phenomenal. Anyway, right. And there was one actually that I had from, and I'm going to look it up here because I don't remember exactly what it was called. It's a gluten-free beer of all things, from Dogfish Head. Their Tweezen Ale. And it's Sorghum based, and we can talk all about Sorghum if you want. I can't talk about it too intelligently, but they use that instead of barley, I believe, and it's brewed with strawberries and buckwheat honey, and it's actually quite good. It's really, really filling, like a Belgian triple is filling, in the same way.
Yep.
But I mean, is there something that I'm looking for that I want to see a rhubarb beer? No, I mean, there's nothing I'm really looking for, but if there's something that looks interesting, I'll try it. I don't know if that answers the question or not. But.
I think it does. I didn't really talk about my last pairing here, and I've been just sipping away. This is from Tree Brewing Company, which pretty much makes everything that I like. Or Village and Tree Brewing are 2 of the companies that I don't even know if there's anything in their lineup I don't like. This is a Jumpin' Jack India Pumpkin Ale. Now, I might have erred here going with an India Pumpkin Ale. It is a limited edition. As the name sort of gives you a hint, it's a little bit more hop forward. 6.5% ABV. That's interesting. On the website, it says 7.1, but this is definitely 6.5. They use Pearl, Golding, and Tettnang hops, which, if you've paid attention to our previous IPA shows, tend to be a little bit more citrusy, a little bit more piney and hop forward. They use Pale, Chocolate, Crystal, M90, and M100 malts. That means nothing to me, but for our beer geeks out there,
means something to somebody.
Yep. And again, we were talking about this at the beginning of the show. They've got some food pairings. They recommend roast turkey, strong cheese, and pumpkin pie. And I would agree with all of those based on the tasting I've had so far. Quick note about Tree Brewing Company. They opened in 1996 in Kelowna, BC. So all 3 of these companies that I've picked today, they're all 1990s brewers. So they go back a few years. Brewmaster there is Dave Gokart and President Todd Melnick. Unfortunately, not a great pairing because it is extremely hop forward. But if you want something that's like basically a pumpkin IPA, this is your boy. And I mean, it's good as like I kind of want to set the cigar down and just drink the beer because the beer is really, really good, but it's very hop forward and like hoppy IPA-ish type beer is not at all what you want to be pairing with this Rocky Patel 1992. Beer is great. Pairing, not so much. It happens.
When I saw it happened to both of us today. When I saw your beer selection, that was the one that intrigued me the most. So I am really curious. I've got absolutely no chance of finding that in my area, but that seems like a beer that I would really like to try. Based on the way that you're describing it and the kind of the way that I expected it to be, It just sounds so interesting. It could be great or it could be awful.
It's really good. I mean, the hops are not overpowering the pumpkin. The hops are citrus and a little piney, but the word of the day is balanced. It's very balanced. It just adds complexity to the beer, and then it finishes with this really great nutmeg and cinnamon. I mean, it's great. It's a great beer, just not a great pairing. And that sometimes happens on sharing our pairings, and we talk about it every week.
All right, so I'll jump into my last one. We've still got some time, so we're good on time, I think. My last pairing, and for whatever reason, since we've been doing these shows and since I've been trying to do some very basic beer reviews, I tend to gravitate a lot towards Dogfish Head. I'm not sure why. I think it's just because they're readily available in my area. But the Dogfish Pumpkin Ale is my final pairing. And there's just so much cool stuff about this beer. Before we even talk about the beer, like, just look at the bottle. The artwork on this bottle is freaking awesome. I mean, she's got kind of I don't know if you can see it, but she's got kind of like a pumpkin poison ivy thing happening. It's artwork. I don't know what era she should be from. I don't think it's kind of an Art Deco type era, but
it's kind of a 50s, 60s vibe.
Yeah, but she's got like a shorter haircut. She's got tattoos all up and down her back, and it's like a pumpkin patch. And there's kind of pumpkin flowers and things all kind of reaching out from her, very poison ivy like from Batman. If you follow any of those things, the artwork is done by I always forget this guy's name, Rich Kelly. And if you check out his website, he's got some really cool artwork. He does a lot of stuff for movies, and he's done a lot of Dave Matthews concert posters as well. I don't know if they have some sort of working relationship or he just likes Dave Matthews. And could be one or the other. But anyway, I love the look of the bottle. I would buy this just based on the look, which I kind of did. Some interesting stuff about the beer itself. This is the first Dogfish Head beer ever made. And that seems kind of odd. And it was actually made before Dogfish Head even existed. He created it, he being the founder, Sam Calagione. I'm not sure if I say that right. But it was founded in 95. In 1994, he was a home brewer. He took some of this to the Punkin Chunkin event in southern Delaware. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Punkin Chunkin, I mean, they have it on TV. It's like people build these contraptions to throw pumpkins. That's it. They build, and whoever throws it the farthest, and I don't know, maybe the best arc. I don't know how they judge it, but it's a big thing. It's become freaking huge. So he brings it to the Punkin Chunkin Challenge in 1994, and they had a recipe contest, and he submitted it, and he won first place with the pumpkin beer. So ever since they opened their doors in 95, they created this as a Dogfish Head beer in the fall of 95, and they've been doing it ever since. 7% alcohol by volume. Let's see. It's available from like September through Thanksgiving. They tend to sell out. Are you trying to stop me?
No, I'm trying to refocus my camera. Just disregard me.
Just cut that part out. I look up and I can see John's camera in the small little corner of my camera, and he's holding his hand up like, stop. And I think you're trying to get me to, did you want to say something? Anyway, I made that last longer than it needed to. September through Thanksgiving, they tend to sell out as Thanksgiving comes around. Obviously, they make more now than they did in 1995, so who knows. Interesting notes on the process. I caught a video of Sam talking about the process, and it's a higher alcohol by volume than a lot of pumpkin ales. Like I said, 7%. Most of these others we've been talking about have been 5 and 6. So some of the alcohol comes from the organic brown sugar that's added during the boil, which is kind of interesting. I don't know the chemistry behind that, but it just sounds kind of interesting to me. And the fact they're throwing in a lot of organic brown sugar brings out a lot of nice flavor. During the mash process is when they add in the pumpkin. At the end of the boils, when they add in their big chunks of spices, their cinnamon, their allspice, and things like that. I don't know what kind of hops they use. I don't know what kind of malts they use. They don't disclose any of that information. But Dogfish Head, like, I mean, they've been around for a while and insanely popular. I'm actually reading, kind of reading Sam's book, Brewing Up a Business. It's a bit more of a entrepreneur type book than about beer, but still kind of interesting read. He's an interesting guy. He's done well for himself, and he's pretty much everywhere. The beer itself is really, really good. Comes in a 4-pack. I went through my first 4-pack as I was writing my review for my other website, and when I first cracked it open, took it right out of the fridge, cracked it open, and it was like, whatever, it's fine. But as it got a little bit warmer, closer to room temperature, it's so much more flavor comes out. And I've tried doing that with all of my pumpkin ales now. Just let them get a little bit warmer, and it doesn't work so well for all of them. But for this one, so much more of that allspice, so much more of that cinnamon. It all comes out, and it becomes such a phenomenal beer. So this is the first one that I opened, even though I knew it was going to be the last one that I was going to drink, because I wanted it to warm up a little bit. I haven't taken any sips yet, but that's some of the background on it. Now I want to get into drinking it. How's your pairing going?
Like I said, unfortunately, not necessarily the best pairing. And we're actually, believe it or not, coming up to the end of our Armed Forces Radio Network segment. I think for me, the best pairing of the night, no question, the Russell Brewing Company Happy Jack. That was, that was kind of what I had in mind when I was sitting down and thinking about pairing. Pumpkin pie in a glass. It's really good. It's kind of what I wanted. I think that the best beer of the night, not pumpkin beer, but beer, would be the Truly Brewing Jumping Jack. I'm going to have to sit down and revisit that, especially at, I think I only paid like $6 for it. So on a clean palate, I want to try that again. And definitely the sort of best example of just a sort of traditional, normal pumpkin beer was the Angry Hessian. What about you, Rob?
I'll go back through. This pumpkin ale pairing for me is really good. It's exactly what I wanted. It's got that pumpkin pie flavor. It's sweet up front. It's got some spice on the finish that brings into the spice on the cigar, and so you get some more sweetness out of the cigar now. The cigar is really, really good. This is the first time I've smoked it, and I'm definitely going to be revisiting it, do some reviews and stuff. We've got them coming on Cigar Chat, I think, in a month. I'm not sure of the date. But the pairing right here is almost perfect, and this is my favorite pairing of the night. Second favorite is kind of the impromptu pairing with the Buffalo Bills here. Pump Kick, it's a phenomenal beer, and it might be my favorite beer of the ones that I've had tonight. The pairing was just awful, which is unfortunate. The pumpkin from Uinta, however you say it, is fine. Whatever. It's not something that I'm going to seek out again, but if I'm puffing away on a cigar, maybe I'll grab one if it's within arm's reach, that type of thing. I think they're all pretty good beers on their own. As far as pairing, the Dogfish Head, one of my favorites, and the pairing is top-notch with the Southern Draw Firethorn. So I would recommend really all of these beers on their own. I would definitely recommend the cigar on its own, and I would recommend pairing it up with something like the Dogfish Head Pumpkin Ale or the Buffalo Bills.
Nice. Well, thanks very much for our audience for tuning in. Thanks very much for our Armed Forces Radio Network listeners, wherever you're on the world, getting ready for Thanksgiving coming up in a few weeks. I'm sure we'll be wishing you a happy Thanksgiving when we get around to it. Hope you're staying safe, and thanks very much for our podcast listeners. You guys, I know you're out there in droves all over the world. We appreciate it. As we always say, make sure to drink better, but drink less. And we're back. I was tempted to just let the silence go till it became really, really awkward, and then I realized we're actually doing this professionally. We have an audience, so it's not just about me and my antics. It's actually about entertaining our audience. So, anyways, kind of an odd pairing tonight. Like
hit or miss.
Yeah, it's
hit or miss.
We've had pairings that have been missed across the boards, and we've had pairings that have been hit across the board. I don't know if I've had pairings that have been this hit or miss across the board, like where one is just so way off the charts.
Well, for me, I should have known, having had the Pump Kick before. I should have known that it was going to be a bad pairing, and maybe somewhere in the back of my mind I did know that, but I didn't have any other 12-ounce bottles to open up. I've got Bell of Rogue. I've got 4 open beers already. I didn't want to have to open a bomber and really just tie one tonight. It might happen anyway.
Gonna get smashed.
Yeah, exactly. We left a question on the board too. It's weird when I do a little bit of research and I have something to actually say about the beers, time fills up. I thought we had a lot more time than we did. At first, I thought we were going too fast, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, we're we're done.
We're done.
Let's do Doug's question here real quick. From Douglas Shepard. What speaks fall to you more, pumpkin brews or Oktoberfest brews? Now, I feel like I've done this all night. I'm going to give you two answers. Oktoberfest to me is the beginning of fall. When Oktoberfest beers come out and I see them in the stores, I see them before I see pumpkin ales around here. I don't know if that's normal for everybody else in the country, but it is for me. And so that to me says, okay, fall is coming. That and baseball playoffs and football and stuff. So that's more of the beginning of fall. But I don't find myself going back to Oktoberfest beers after Oktoberfest, if that makes any sense. But for pumpkin ales, I'm going to be drinking them all month in October, and I'm going to be drinking them all month in November because it still fits. And maybe that's just me being too cognizant of the calendar. But I think pumpkin ales resonate a little bit more with me than Oktoberfest beers do. With the German style beers and the Belgian style beers and all that, I'm still learning about those, and I'm still learning how to enjoy them and what I like about them and what I don't like and the differences and things. So it's easier for me to reach for a pumpkin ale because I know exactly what's going on. Some of these other ones, when we start talking about different Oktoberfest beers, I'm not really sure what's what. So that's still a learning curve for me. So maybe I'm just a little bit more comfortable with pumpkin ale. I'm not sure. But that's my answer to that question.
Well, I think for me, Oktoberfest is like the classic, like you said, fall celebration. It's a celebration. It's not a 3-month thing. It's a celebration of transitioning from summer to fall. And I like Oktoberfest. I really enjoy Oktoberfest beers. It's a thing that I enjoy. But to me, pumpkin is Thanksgiving and pumpkin is fall. So, like pumpkin, and man, do I eat my body weight in pumpkin. I can enjoy pumpkin beers, kind of like what Rob was saying, for like 3 months. I'm not going to crack. Well, I am, because I've got some Oktoberfest beers left over, but I'm not going to go and buy Oktoberfest beers at the end of October. I'm going to be buying pumpkin beers. And then when the pumpkin beers are, run out, then I'm done. It's just, to me, like it's, again, pumpkin is something that lasts a couple months. Oktoberfest is something that comes at the end of August. You enjoy a couple beers, and then you move on.
Yeah. This is my favorite time of year for beer. I mean, we're getting into the Marzens, the amber ales, the brown ales, with the stouts and the porters right on the way after that. That's where I live with beer. I mean, yeah. I'm still learning how to enjoy the Belgians and the triples and Pilsners and stuff like that. I mean, I tend to avoid Pilsners just because when I think of Pilsner, I think of Budweiser, and that just sounds boring to me. But Budweiser bought Miller, by the way.
Yeah.
What the hell is that about?
And already there's an antitrust investigation.
That's just insane. That is
$55 billion.
Unbelievable. I mean, we could talk about that for a while. Actually, I couldn't really talk about it intelligently very long. But anyway, you're starting to freeze over there. Let's start the show an hour earlier from now on.
I agree.
Because you're sitting in the dark. I feel bad. Like, I'm still warm and comfortable, but you're not. So let's do the football picks and wrap this up.
Can do. So just a quick revisit from last week. No? No, we're just gonna quick.
I sucked it up last week.
Yeah, you've been doing consistently really, really well all year, and last week you got thrown for a huge loop. I went off the reservation. You went way off the reservation, brother. You went 6 for 14, which, if you know Rob and you follow Rob knows his football. He knows his shit. He's, his fantasy team is locked down. His weekly picks are locked down. I don't know what happened last week, but man, you went way off the reservation last week.
Wild hair. Got a little squirrely.
I, on the other hand, went 11 for 14. Part of the reason for that is my lucky Bears pick We were talking about this before the podcast started. The Chiefs have been pissing me off all year because the Chiefs, what did you say? They're like 1-4 now?
Yeah.
1-4, and it's a team that at the least should be 3-1, or 3-2, pardon me. But they just keep finding ways to lose a football game, and it just pisses me off because they've got all of the tools and they keep losing games. And that was a classic example of the Bears were just garbage football. Went into overtime, and Cutler just goes, yeah, I guess I'm just going to win the football game.
Yeah, what the hell? Let's just win.
Let's just get a win. Shout out to Bob Dog, who matched me up for 11 for 14. Bob Dog, of course, got sucked into the Chiefs trap, and both of us got somehow beat up on the Ravens pick. The Browns managed to beat the Ravens. I don't know what the heck happened there. And the Broncos look like complete garbage against the Raiders. I mean, kudos to you, Rob, because you had the Raiders down. And honestly, for the first half of that game, I thought the Raiders were going to win that football game.
They should have.
Yeah.
Like, the Broncos just look like the most decrepit, worst 5-0 team ever. Like, when was the last time a team went 5-0 and didn't make the playoffs?
That's actually a good tagline for the Broncos. Worst 5-0 team in the league.
Anyway, so just real quick, update on our baseball playoffs. Toronto beat Texas, so they're going to the ALCS. It was a 6-3 game. Joey Bats crushed a 3-run homer. I just stood there and watched it, and then had this epic bat toss. But I mean, that guy's hit plenty of home runs. I think he's earned that a little bit. Houston at Kansas City is winning 2-0 in the bottom of the fourth inning. So I'm all about Houston, dude. I realized I don't really like the Royals after beating them in the World Series last year. I realized I just don't like that team. But anyway, let's get into these picks so we can get you back inside and warm.
Football. All right, so we're just about halfway through the season, at least halfway in my mind. We've got who do we have on bye this week? We have the Cowboys, Raiders, Rams, and Bucks all on bye. Good time to have a bye week 6. I mean, it's right about that time where you've got a lot of injuries, you need to recoup. So first up on our Thursday night game, we've got a classic hate division matchup. Falcons travel to New Orleans to face off against the Saints.
This feels like Uber trap game, dude. I'm looking at it, and I actually watched the Falcons and Washington last week. They won that game on accident.
Yep.
And they're talented enough to do that. I got to go with Atlanta. It's in New Orleans. I could see New Orleans winning this game. They've looked so awful. And I called that on week 1, and everybody told me I was stupid. I said they look like dog shit. But,
why are you so stupid, Rob? God.
But I'm going to go with Atlanta because they're just too talented. I really hope that Julio Jones plays because he's a linchpin in my fantasy team. So, and that's a juicy matchup. I think
he's healthy. I think he's playing.
He's going to play. He says they'd have to cut my leg off to get me out of the game. He's going to play, but he's going to – I don't know. I kind of hope that he does something early, and then they just kind of take him out of the game, and they get a big lead.
Falcons are 5-0. There's no way I can pick against them. I mean, I know the Saints have the home field advantage, but 5-0 Falcons, they're going to find a way to win this game. I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I'm definitely going Falcons.
Yeah, I agree.
Next up, back from the bye week, the Jets are having some tools back. One of the big tools, Sheldon Richardson, face off against the Redskins. Redskins actually looked good last week. I can't take anything away from them. They look good. They lost the game they probably shouldn't have. Redskins are traveling to New York to face off against the Jets. I think if the Jets didn't have a lot of tools back, I'd be really nervous about this game. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, but I'd be really, really uncomfortable if I was the quarterback for the Redskins because you're going to get sacked like 8 or 10 times in this game. It's just going to get ugly. I think it's going to be one of those games where it's like 13-10 or 13-9, and I'm going to go with the Jets.
Yeah, I think the Jets can control the clock. They can keep Washington's offense, which isn't really that good to begin with, keep them off the field. Just steady dose of Chris Ivory. I got to go Jets. Home team, they're the better team. They win.
Next up, the Arizona Cardinals, who seem to be the lock for Super Bowl this year, are going to face off against the Steelers, who have been lucky and good and lucky and lucky. The Cardinals are going to smash the Steelers. This, like every other game before this, is going to get out of control. The Cardinals are going to put up 30 or 40 points. If you're a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, you probably want to start drinking now.
Now, question for you, though. What if Ben Roethlisberger plays?
Doesn't matter.
Really?
Doesn't matter. He's gonna get beat up. The Cardinals have just been dominant. Every game they've won. Not on defense, but they've been dominant. Dominant on offense. You know, I think their average points for the last 5 games have been like 32 or 33. There's just no way the Steelers are going to outscore the Cardinals. No way.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take the Cardinals too. Ben Roethlisberger practiced today. It appeared that he threw 2 passes in 7-on-7 drills.
Oh, shit, I better go upstairs and pick him up in our fantasy football league. Oh, my God, I don't have a quarterback.
I already claimed him, dude. He's on my bench. I'm hoping I can have him for week 7 in my bye. Yeah, you know, I think you're right. I think if Ben was healthy and coming back this week without question, then it would be a different story. But, yeah, Cardinals.
The Kansas City Chiefs, who I just went on a tangent about, go to Minnesota face off against Vikings. Fuck you, Chiefs. You're going to lose. That's all I have to say about that. The Vikings are going to find a way to win this, or the Chiefs are going to find a way to lose this. Either way, the Vikings are going to win.
I feel like this will be the week that I don't pick Kansas City and they win. If you need a quarterback, go pick up Teddy Bridgewater for this week. Just to see what happens if you need one. He's available. I think Minnesota wins this game, and I think they win it pretty handily.
Yep. Enough said. Bengals face off against the Bills. If it was last week and Tyrod was still healthy, this might be a really interesting game. Unfortunately, they're starting Manuel, whatever the heck his name is, EJ?
EJ Manuel, the number one pick from a couple of years ago, yeah.
Dude, I mean, what a bad time to have your the reason you're winning games injured. The Bengals are going to beat the Bills up. They're going to beat them up so bad the Bills are going to think it's the 1990s.
Yeah, I think the Bengals win this game. I mean, I don't know if it's late enough in the year where weather can play a role in Buffalo because it can get cold up there. EJ Manuel, I mean, the guy's playing for his career at this point. I mean, maybe he comes in and has a nice game, but I wouldn't put my money on that. I'll take the Bengals. We've agreed on every game so far.
This is not good.
Yeah.
In the Who Cares Bowl of the week, the Chicago Bears go to Detroit to face off against the Lions. Both teams look like crap all season. I don't care about this game. I don't care about these teams, but I have to pick. So I'm just going to go Detroit because they're the home team.
Oh, that's good because I was going to pick the Bears. So there you go.
Boom. There we go. There's our split. What could be the interesting game of the week, and I might get in trouble for this, the Broncos, who we've just talked about being the worst 5-0 team in the league, face off against the Cincinnati Browns, who have actually looked good. Now, I feel like this is the ultimate trap game of the week. I'm going to go with the Broncos. I feel like that's a mistake. I feel like I should be going with the Browns.
Yeah, I'm going with Cleveland.
All right. Nice. The Houston Who Cares Texans face off against the Don't Care About You Jaguars. I don't care about this game. I'm just going to go Jags.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Jags too. I think the Jags – I actually was watching a fair amount of that game this past week, the Jags and Tampa Bay. Granted, 2 crap teams, right? But the Jags, they put up some points, and I think they're going to do it again. I would take the Jags over Houston.
The Dolphins are also back from their bye and also back from
a crap game. Jeez.
Fresh. Yeah, Dolphins face off against the Titans. Dolphins just lost their coach. Jets beat them so bad in London that they got their coach fired, and that's a very satisfying win. If you can get someone from the front office fired as a result of that game, or just their performance in general, the Dolphins have looked like crap. The Titans have not looked much better, but Titans at home. I'm going to go with the Titans on this one.
Yeah, I'm probably going to – this is just take the home team game, Tennessee.
Yep.
Yeah.
This might be an interesting split for us. The afternoon game, the Carolina Panthers face off against the Seattle Seahawks, who, again, have also looked like crap. They keep being ranked top 10 in the power rankings, and it's pissing me off because they suck. They suck. I'm going with the Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to come out and outscore the Seahawks.
The Panthers are 4-0.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shiza.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm. Seattle can't be this bad.
They are this bad. They're
No.
just a mess.
I'll take Seattle
Nice.
at home. It's a tough place.
The San Diego Chargers face off against the Green Bay Packers. Packers have looked dominant in every game. I don't see how you could pick against them. I'm going Packers.
Yeah, they're bound to lose. I just don't think it's this week. I'll take Green Bay as well. And the dog shit bowl of the week. Go ahead.
Packers are going to lose if they face off against the Chiefs this year. That'll be the game they drop. It'll just make me rage. In the second Who Cares Bowl, the Baltimore Ravens face off against your 49ers. I'm actually going with the 49ers this week. I think the 49ers might have gotten their act together. They looked really good last week. And the Ravens just have not looked good. 49ers.
Interesting note, and I talk a little bit more about this game every week than I do any other game. I was listening to a little bit of talk radio today, which I hardly ever do, sports talk radio. And this guy does a lot of 49ers stuff. And he was talking about how this particular game, most of the offensive plays, the successful ones, it wasn't Kaepernick making a read. Kaepernick knew exactly where he was going with the ball before he even snapped it. And you could even tell on some of the passes that he threw, he shouldn't have thrown them. And there was that one pass interference on a pass he threw to Torrey Holt over the middle, which shouldn't have been pass interference, but he was double covered. He had no business throwing that ball. But that was his read. That's it. I think that they've dumbed that playbook down so much that Kaepernick feels comfortable. And they did look better. They didn't look – I don't know if they look good. That was a bit too much of a compliment. But the Ravens have looked just as bad, so I can barely see you anymore. So I'm going to go with the 49ers.
All right. Darkness, my old friend. The Patriots, who look like they're going to repeat a Super Bowl appearance, even after they got beat up last game. Tom Brady was getting sacked. I thought, they might be in trouble, but no, it's the Patriots. Face off against the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think the Colts are going to be embarrassed here, but, there's no question in my mind the Patriots are going to win.
No Andrew Luck, no W.
Yeah.
Luck's not playing, apparently, so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a lock then.
New England,
That's my Stone Cold lock of the week of the century then.
There you go.
And last but not least, classic divisional matchup, New York Giants against the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles kind of looked good last week. I'm against my better judgment, I'm going to go with the Eagles.
I'll take the Eagles too. That is a rivalry blood hate game.
Yep.
The fans hate each other. I don't know if the players really care as much as the fans do. But like you said, it looked like Philly kind of got their act together a little bit. They've got a lot of weapons. If DeMarco Murray can start getting his stuff together, that could be an interesting team down the road. So, yeah, I go Philadelphia. I didn't think – the Giants barely beat the 49ers, and I know Eli's numbers look good and all that. But, yeah, I got to go Philly on that one. So we didn't differ on too many games.
No, just 3, I think. So I'll have to go back over the show and write those picks down. If you want to get involved, make sure to email your picks at john@cigarfederation.com. Next week we'll be back at our earlier start time so you can actually see me of 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think we'll have a guest host on next week to be determined.
For you or for me?
For you? No?
Maybe.
Who knows? Keeping it real here on Sharing Our Pairings. But make sure to check us out at our earlier start time of 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 5 p.m. Pacific, that's 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Yeah, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is the only time that matters. Thanks, everyone, for sticking in it. Appreciate you sending our questions and tuning in and listening to the podcast. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, here with my co-host, Robbie Raz, and we want to urge you to drink better, but drink less.